ever read that book, To Kill a Mockingbird?
I have not.
And there was a movie, I think it was Gregory Peck. You've never read To Kill a Mockingbird?
Nope.
Well, we're going to talk about things that will kill your retirement.
Great. Like what? Lyle Menendez?
Hey, welcome back to That Financial Guy Show. My name is Keith Wilson, financial advisor, here with Mr. Anthony Ruffalo again.
Anthony Ruffalo.
Certified financial planner.
Certified financial planner.
We do financial planning, retirement planning, a lot of it. Mm-hmm. And over the years, between the two of us, we have 100 years of experience. I have 80 years. Mm-hmm. You have 20.
Next, in 2 months, I'll have 20 years of experience.
I'm just kidding. I don't have 80.
You just look 80.
20. I look 80. Thanks.
Yeah.
There are things that we see working with clients, things that happen that can actually kill your retirement.
Right.
So a lot of things that can kill your retirement.
Yeah. The first thing that comes to my mind would be the Menendez brothers.
They killed 2 retirements.
Destroyed immediately.
But on the good side, they didn't need long-term care.
O.J. Simpson could kill a retirement. So yeah, what can kill your retirement?
What can kill your... No, in all seriousness, things will happen maybe that you do, or it just happens. It centers around not planning. So we're going to go over several things that can maybe not kill your retirement, but really destroy it, ruin your retirement. And the first one comes to mind. We've talked about it before.
Number one, sequence of returns.
Sequence of returns risk. What is sequence of returns risk?
Sequence of returns is when you retire into a bear market and you get negative returns at the beginning of your retirement while you're drawing it down. It is the absolute kiss of death.
And it's going to take a long time to recover from that.
If you ever recover.
Because you're getting a double whammy. Like you said, market's down 20%. Maybe you're pulling out 5% and things like that to recover.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think, okay, if I lost 50% in my portfolio, all I got to do is earn 50% to get it back.
False. You got to earn 100% to get back to even. When was the last time the market has gone up 100%? Never.
Never. It would take several years for that to happen, potentially. I mean, if you had $100,000, we'll use around, just say $1 million. $1 million in the portfolio, it goes down 50%. How much money do you have? 500. I switched it to $1 million.
Oh, you switched. Okay.
500,000. And you say, well, if I earn 50%, I'll get it back.
No, you don't. You'll have 750.
You'll have 750. So you have to earn 100% to get it back.
Correct.
If it went down 20%, you're going to have to earn more than 20% to get it back.
Yeah.
So
it's not 40 though.
It's not 40.
I saw you wanted to say 40,
no,
but then
no.
you're like doing the math and
it's like 28 or 30, something like that.
It's a lot more than 20.
It's more than 20 is the point. But the point is, retiring in a bad year and you're pulling money out, it could either ruin it, you'll never recover, or it's going to take a long time to recover because the next year you're pulling money out to live on. So how do we overcome this retirement killer?
Okay, I'll give you 3. There's 3 totally acceptable ways for a financial planner to handle this. And these are the technical terms. Number 1, time segmented planning. So that's the bucket planning. Number 2 is called risk wrap, when you go out and you insure all of your retirement money, aka you buy some type of life insurance or annuity product that is wrapped in guarantees. It's very expensive and can be cost prohibitive to do that. And then lastly is the total return strategy. Total return strategy is you just have an overall portfolio, and then you set your overall portfolio at an acceptable withdrawal rate according to your asset mix and age and expected longevity. And those are the 3 perfectly acceptable ways of dealing with and managing appropriately sequence of return risk.
And I would say as you get closer to retirement, and maybe one of your fancy little acronyms, the risk wrap and all that stuff, I was just going to say set aside 2 to 3 years of what you will need in income in retirement in fixed income or cash. That way, when you do retire, because who knows what it's going to look like the year you retire, you start pulling from that cash bucket to pay yourself. So if you're retiring in a down market, you're not touching all the other stuff. You're not having to sell when it's down. You're giving it time to recover. So proper planning would help mitigate the sequence of return risk.
Can I just let everybody in on a little, I don't want to call it a secret, but just some common sense that nobody ever thinks about. So the number one thing that people are concerned with is I don't want to run out of money, right? And how much risk should I take? It's how much risk is appropriate for where I'm at. But let's just run out some like a basic scenario, play it out. Let's say you're 65. Like average life expectancy is depending on is about 85, right? And most people are really just spending until about, I would say 70 to 75 on actually like go years, and then you slow down. But let's just assume 20 years. If you take $1 million and you're like, how do I make this $1 million last for 20 years? And you just stick it in a savings account at zero return, and you take out 5% a year, you'll get all of your principal back. You have 20 years worth of income at 5% without earning a dime and without putting a dime at risk. So if you just follow that basic principle, and I'm not suggesting you do that because you're losing money to inflation, but if you just did that whole like, am I going to run out of money? It's sad to say, but most people are not living to 85. That's the average. The average means that like 30, 40, a lot aren't living to age 85. I'm seeing a lot of people die in their late 70s. So if you just took the $1 million and you put it all in fixed income at 3.5 to 4.5%, that's going to get you. That's gonna get you out at least 25. If I had my HP12C to run the calculation, that's gonna get you 25 to 28 years of your 5%, and you're not even doing anything. You're not even taking any risk at that point. That's just the basic. That's how simple it is. And our industry just so overcomplicates things because there are so many hands in the cookie jar of people that want to earn fees for literally doing nothing.
But if you're not planning for sequence of returns risk, it just happens. That's a killer. I've seen it happen and destroy retirement.
Fail to plan and plan to fail.
Correct.
Plan to fail, fail to plan. Fail a plan. Fail. Failing.
Failing.
Fail.
Fail.
Plan fail.
Plan. Failing. Flailing. Failing. Fan. Next is, this could really hurt.
Really hurt, literally, if you fall and break a hip.
If you fall to break a hip, you go to a long-term care facility. So long-term care.
We're actually broadcasting from a long-term care facility where I'm visiting Keith Wilson. He officially has 4 ADLs that he cannot perform.
Correct. And I've got nurses downstairs.
He cannot toilet. He cannot prepare his own food anymore.
No, I certainly don't do that.
He can. I don't want to say you can barely transition up and out of that chair.
Correct.
And you certainly don't know how to dress. Who put you in purple? Purple is a heinous color.
My wife likes it.
I'm just kidding. I love purple. It's my favorite color.
Oh, in all seriousness, long-term care.
And he does have his Depends on. So
I do have my Depends on.
Incontinence.
That's why I can sit here with you for
it's not his ability
an hour.
To dress. He's still a sharp dresser.
I am that.
Incontinence was the 4th ADL.
Correct. My wife helps me to the bathroom. What is long-term care? It could be, most people think about a nursing home with long-term care. That's the end of life. And actually, nursing home admissions have come dramatically down.
Did you say admissions? Nursing home admissions?
Nursing home admission.
Admissions.
Admission.
I thought you said emissions.
We're not going to emit nursing homes. Nursing home
they have
admissions.
They have a carbon footprint now?
They do. All those old people,
flatulence.
They're going to turn to carbon.
Talk about like cap and trade and with carbon tax, the methane emissions that are coming out of nursing homes now are just
it's horrible.
It's worse than any fossil fuel you can burn at this point.
In any case, nursing home admissions.
Now you know why Cuomo put those COVID people in the nursing homes. He was trying to reduce the carbon footprint.
Population control.
It's my conspiracy theory.
Most people think of long-term care event as going to a nursing home, but nursing home admissions
Admissions.
have come down dramatically over the last 20, 25 years with the advent of assisted living facilities. There are more people needing in-home care than in a nursing home. But all of this costs money. Nursing homes, assisted living facilities, in-home care, adult daycare. It costs a lot of money. And you can look up by your state. There's a site, I'll leave it in the description below, Genworth Cost of Care. It's got a neat interactive map. You hover over your state while it brings up the average cost for a nursing home in your state, for assisted living, and for in-home care. And then you can adjust that by year, and it will show the inflation cost.
Yeah, that's actually a really good tool.
It's a very good tool.
Genworth puts out some great long-term care focused content.
In North Carolina, nursing homes around $9,000 a month, assisted living around $5,500 to $6,000 a month. So it's very costly. And guess what? Medicare doesn't cover full-blown long-term care. Your health insurance doesn't. That's why we'll get into long-term care insurance in just a minute. But what are your chances of ever needing a long-term care event, such as in-home assisted living or whatnot? Well, the chances are once you turn 65, 70% of people age 65 will need some form of long-term care in their lifetime. Now,
What about the other 30%? They just die?
they die and they don't.
They have an acute event and it's just a wrap.
Correct.
It's a wrap on the Jack Johnson?
That's what averages mean. Okay, 70% is a high
Where do you think you're going to fall?
chance. I'm probably in the bathroom. That's where I will fall.
In the 70-30, where do you think you're going to fall? Do you think you're going to have do you think you're going to have an acute event and just check out? Or do you think you're going to
Now, if I knew that,
just draw this thing out
Who
and just be a
knows?
burden to your wife?
who knows? If I knew that,
I'm asking you to take a guess. What do you think?
I think I'll beat the odds. I think certainly 70% is a high risk, but that percentage is saying some form, and it doesn't say how long. So some insurance agents will try to scare the crap out of you, throwing that 70% figure around. That doesn't mean you're going to need nursing home care for 10 years. But it's something that if you're not prepared for it in some form or fashion, that could really destroy your retirement.
What about people investing too aggressively in retirement? Do you think that is a risk?
Not in retirement, yes.
In retirement.
For those accumulating, no. Well, let's talk about it both ways. It could hurt your future retirement plans if you're investing speculatively. There's a difference between I'm aggressive. What that means to me is 100% stock or equities.
Growth.
And growth. Investing speculatively is what's the hot stock out there that my brother-in-law told me about? I'm going to put all my chips on that color.
Correct.
That's speculatively.
Yeah. For example, you think, oh, like the chip story now is top of the news, and you put 95%, or you're like, hey, I've got an extra 50,000. I'm going to put it all on this chip maker because I think it's going to continue to go up at 10x. That is speculatively investing. That is not the same risk level as saying, I have a 401k that's 100% equities that's diversified across 5 different indexes and asset classes, small cap, mid cap, large cap, value,
different sectors
growth,
of the economy.
Sectors, the whole thing.
Tech, healthcare, and so forth.
Although both are 100% equities, it is not the same risk level. And that, to your point, one is very speculative in nature because you're making a huge bet on one company that could certainly go off the rails in a day versus betting on the United States of America and its prosperity.
Again, that's diversification within. You can still be diversified having all 100% equities. So in accumulation phase, investing speculatively versus otherwise. Once you retire, and you're relying on your portfolio for income, investing that's where you might want to pare it back, because your time horizon is now.
Right.
Your plane has landed. We've reached our destination. If you're 100% equity and you're relying on all of that for income, it's almost like the sequence of returns risk,
Yeah.
where it could all go 40%. The market went down, the Great Recession went down 50% in that 3-year time period, or 1.5-year time period.
So here's how I illustrate it to, again, I work with a bunch of equity compensated executives, and typically a disproportionate amount of their wealth has been built through a single equity. So to your point, when when you're transitioning, when you're going from accumulation phase to decumulation phase, and what has worked, not saying that it necessarily will stop working. However, it's time to take some of the chips off the table. And what do I mean by that? That's where you come in with your time segmented planning. And the question that I would ask, an executive would be, hey, during your 30-year career, you've seen this stock fluctuate. What? There's been a couple of year stretches where the asset price has been depressed, right? And they'll always inevitably, because every company goes through that time period. And if you look at any chart of any company, they'll go through a time period where it's flat, maybe down, or it comes off a high. And I asked them, if you had to sell that stock when you knew that it was undervalued, wouldn't you be upset? And they inevitably answer yes. We don't know where the high is, but we do know that right now you're transitioning to needing money. So let's take some of the money, let's tuck away 3 to 5 years worth of income into fixed income. And that buys you more time in the market, so you never have to sell your darling position at a depressed asset price, or what you feel is an undervalued asset price.
So really, overconfidence can kill your retirement.
Just buy,
Overconfidence in investing too aggressively.
What about the flip side?
The flip side is investing too conservatively.
Too conservatively. Like
well, let's say you're in the accumulation phase. You're 35, 40 years old. And
which is long past for you?
it's way long past. Way long past. That was about 50 years ago. Investing too conservatively in your accumulation phase, these are your growth years, because you have the time horizon. You have the ability, okay, markets went down 20, 30, 40% in a year, fine. You have the time where it's going to recover. But if you're investing too conservatively, maybe you're not beating inflation. Stocks have proven to beat inflation over a number of years, and you want this to grow. You can be too conservative in decumulation, in retirement.
Yep.
If you're pulling out 5%, you got 100% in CDs that might be earning 3, 4%. Number one, you're going backwards right there. So it takes a balance. But again, don't be too conservative in accumulation phase. I know there's a difference between risk tolerance and risk capacity. So some folks may not have tolerance for risk even at age 40, but they certainly have the capacity. And that's where it would be up to us as advisors to coach them and lead them that way.
So to illustrate that mathematically, so if you retire at age 65 and you need $100,000 a year in income at just a 3% inflation rate, by the time you get into your 80s, you need $200,000 a year. Or said differently, you're going to lose half your buying power if you're not raising that annual income each year. And in order to be able to raise that annual income, we look to the equity markets, as equity markets have been the best defense against inflation, or stocks with the ability to raise their prices to pass on the rising costs to consumers. So essentially, shareholder wealth should keep up.
Speaking of income, here's another killer, or something that will blow your retirement up. I have a lot of folks earning, $300,000 or $400,000 a year, and I've got the income. I can do this later. I can plan later. I can sock away money later. The kids are growing. We want to do all the fun stuff, and they're living for today, is what I'm saying.
Right.
Overconfident that they think that income is going to be there next year or the year after. Things happen, life happens. So I kind of say, hey, you better make hay while the sun is shining. Make a plan.
How do you make hay?
You make hay while the sun is shining.
What does that expression even mean?
That means
I know what it means, but how do you make hay?
It means
Or do you mean
to harvest the hay, I think.
harvest
is
it?
what
You don't even know.
that's a
even
pretty doggone
make
good
hay.
guess.
You don't even know.
I grew up.
How do you have your cake and eat it too?
I can do that.
I mean,
I make two cakes.
I see you've been eating your cake. I know you've been eating your cake. I don't even need to ask. That's a rhetorical question.
Here's how you can have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah,
You have two cakes.
2 cakes,
You eat one, and you still have the other.
baby cakes.
All right.
Let's go a little.
Make hay while the sun is shining is what I say to those high-end. Take advantage of what you got now. You're overconfident, thinking that your income is always going to be there.
We're the
grow.
only culture that expects each year to get better. We're the only culture around the world that expects next year. We are addicted to growth. And everybody thinks that their income is going to go up. We just naturally assume there's going to be inflation, there's going to be cost of living, there is going to be growth. We're just hardwired. It's engraved in our culture. If you work in corporate America, everything is about making your numbers grow. There's no such thing as like, hey, how do we just stay flat? You're fired.
Yeah.
It's how do we grow? All of our portfolio assumptions are based around growth. There's no way to not, we have to grow, right? So we all expect that our incomes are going to grow. We all expect that our portfolios are going to grow. And that isn't always necessarily the case. There's going to be a lot of people over the next decade that are displaced by technology. If you believe in the AI story, that it's real and that AI is the trend of
the future.
Yeah, the trend of the future, and it's going to increase worker productivity. Well, that means that companies aren't going to need as many workers as they once had. So people that have $200,000-$300,000 a year jobs, and you're not saving because you're like, oh, my job is always going to be in existence. My job is, I'm always going to be in demand. That's not necessarily the case. There are countless examples of people, jobs that have been replaced throughout history. So save. I'm not saying don't live and don't enjoy, but you better make for damn sure that you are putting enough money away so you don't look back in retrospect and kick yourself in the butt.
Right. The next one is really a mindset. And I've seen this before. You ever heard the term, what is that term? Paralysis from analysis. Paralysis from analysis.
Yes.
People want to get everything perfect. I need to build the perfect portfolio of where everything's located. I got to build the perfect budget. And trying to be perfect may cause some people to throw their hands up and say, I can't do this until I get it right.
Yeah.
I can't do it, and they're overwhelmed.
It's like somebody who's single to their 42. They're just looking for the perfect spouse.
They don't exist.
They don't exist.
They don't.
I'm a great example.
Well, wait a minute.
I'm a great example of being an imperfect spouse.
Well, in this household, there is one perfect spouse. It's my wife.
We know.
Okay. But anyway, they're trying to be perfect. They're going to throw their hands up. They're going to give up, and they're having paralysis. They're not starting. So nothing's perfect. You just have to start that progress. So perfection is the killer of progress because things will change.
The enemy. Perfection is the enemy of progress.
Correct. Thank you. I always say things wrong, like Michael Scott, I think, sometimes.
No, that's
why you're here.
I can relate to your wife. Constantly have to correct you.
But understand whatever plan you put into place, even your financial planner, it's going to change.
An imperfect plan is better than no plan.
I try to say, hey, I want to be 100% approximately right. That's better than being 100% precisely wrong.
That's how I describe it to people. There's no such thing as a perfect plan. It's a framework. Life is dynamic. We have so many different. A financial plan is a bunch of variables put together in a model. And when you have a bunch of variables that are put together in a model, they always constantly change, right? So our models are based on inflation assumptions, stock market return assumptions, health assumptions, longevity assumptions, income assumptions, raises, bonuses. And like there's so many different
Divorce.
there's so many different
All kinds
assumptions that go into
happens.
savings rate assumptions, employer match assumptions, and any one of those can change in any given year, which changes the outcome of the hypothetical model that we assembled. So like what I tell clients is that it's just a framework for us to operate in, and
Based on what we know today.
and we operate and we adjust on the fly each year. That's why I'm a proponent of the advisory relationship. It has to be an ongoing relationship that's fed and watered each and every year. We make little micro adjustments to the plan every single year just to say, hey, are we in the ballpark? Are we like on track for, I know we want to get to this number in the future, and are we, based on what, are we tracking for that? Yes or no? Or have we gone severely or so far off track that we need to make like a major adjustment at this point, or just call the game and say, hey, listen, this ain't gonna happen.
But by not doing anything, that's a decision, and that's a choice.
The decision not to make a decision is also a decision.
Correct. How about this? We'll wrap it up with tax planning is an issue that
Wrap it up like a Christmas gift, Keith.
put a little bow on it.
Put a little bow on it.
We'll talk about the tax planning thing, because it might not kill your retirement, but it could hurt by not properly tax planning. For example, you don't have a true blue withdrawal strategy. You just, okay, I'm going to pull money out of this account. Well, maybe you're having to sell highly appreciated stock, and we got a capital gain situation. Or you make a Roth conversion at the wrong time, and there are right times and wrong times, and there are right amounts and wrong amounts, and then thus more in taxes. So pay attention to tax allocation of your money.
Yeah,
The tax deferred, tax-free, and taxable.
we can call this one the Hinckley, because it doesn't necessarily, it's an attempted assassination of your retirement.
Okay.
It's not actually going to kill it, but it can come close.
And that bullet's coming real close.
It can come close, and you definitely, you need some Secret Service on your side to prevent.
Oh, I like that.
You need the Secret Service. That's
What we
are.
do.
Yeah, we're like the Secret Service. So
A lot of times we protect you from making
they want to Hinckley, your retirement, and that's just a lack of tax planning. And part of tax planning for retirement doesn't happen 30 years from now. It happens right now. It happens with the selection during the accumulation process of how you're going to allocate your funds, which is pre-tax, Roth, and after tax, and allocating to those three buckets, not necessarily directly proportionately, but allocating some capital to each one of those three buckets gives you options in the future, because we don't know which one is going to be most advantageous to you in the future, because we don't know what the tax rates are going to be in the future, and we don't know how Congress could potentially change how those different buckets of money are taxed. But what we do know is that if you have those three members of the Secret Service, they can run some type of point to keep you protected as best as humanly possible, and you wind up like Reagan and not Lincoln.
I love your analogy on the Hinckley on that one.
How it actually works out, what I do in practice is, if I have people, we optimize your distribution for the year, and I do it on an annual basis. And if we have people with multiple buckets of money, Roth, after tax, and pre-tax, and they say, hey, I need $120,000 this year, plus I need another $50,000 for a one-time withdrawal for this expense that I have, Now it's on me. I get out my tax software and I just say, hey, how do I keep this person to the lowest federal effective bracket as humanly possible? And I get in there and I just start tinkering with optimizing those distributions. And the only way we can do that is if you have the option to go to those multiple buckets of money. It's not necessarily, like a Lyle Menendez where it's going to just completely annihilate you in the living room while you're watching TV in the blink of an eye, but it will slowly hinkle you, and you'll die a slow death from a 22 lodged in your rib cage that you don't even know about.
Okay, let's wrap this up now. I'm getting really depressed. In any case, these are some topics that could really hurt you in retirement. Maybe not kill you, maybe hinkle you. But those are some strategies to overcome it. That's going to wrap it up. Hey, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a rating. If you're listening to the podcast on Apple or wherever you listen to.
Come find my YouTube channel at Anthony Ruffalo. Come find my YouTube channel and subscribe to my YouTube channel, because Keith will not refuse. He refuses to change the name to something more inclusive. This is representative of two people doing a podcast.
Give me your ideas on if we should change the name of this from That Financial Guy to whatever. All right, see you next time. If you like what you're seeing so far, check out this next video. Subscribe to the channel. Lord willing, we'll see you next time.